Now, before I'm going to show lots of examples that have code, but don't worry, all of the code examples are extremely simple. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the Wolfram technology so you are not distracted by the notation. I'm working in a notebook, so inputs and outputs are in the document here. I'm not going to be working from the command line or running scripts, so you'll just see outputs appear below inputs. We have within that technology stack for Wolfram Language all kinds of functionality that is different from machine learning, all kinds of computational language technology, but it is all accessed in the same way that we have commands that have a name. So if I'm adding 2 and 2, the command might be called plus, and then there's arguments that are separated by commas and they have square brackets around them. So when you see something that has this name, square brackets, that's just a function in the Wolfram language, and everything is a function. We will see data in a couple of forms. The curly brackets are a way of denoting a list of numbers. Higher dimensional data is just lists of lists. So there's no sort of limits to the depth here. We've got a list of lists of lists. So we've got 3-dimensional data, and it doesn't have to be rectangular. It can be ragged like this example. And we also have a key value notation, like a dictionary in Python or a struct in other languages, where we have data which is not ordered like a list is, where we've got a first and second element, but it's labeled by a key. So the key here is name, and the value is Jim, and the little brackets here denote that this is a key value pair. So with that, you've got essentially all you need to do, hopefully, to understand the code that we'll see. So let's get into the tools that are provided within the Wolfram language that make this hopefully very accessible for you to be able to just get started on. So there's a whole collection of commands. There's 5,000 commands in the Wolfram language. We're going to focus on a few dozen today. The most notable ones we're going to look at, first of all, are things like classify and predict, which are the complete automated machine learning commands. Cluster classify and find clusters are for finding clusters, and we'll talk about the rest as we hit them. And the language here, they're all very task oriented. We'll notice they're called things like classify, not k nearest neighbor. The algorithm is a detail, so we try and label things by what they're trying to do. So the name of the function is just key to understand the purpose. We'll also look at a much richer and more complicated neural network framework, and we'll just lightly touch in on that for more expert users. So let's look at some quick examples of using some of these built-in commands. First of all, the classify command actually already comes with some pre-built machine learning classifiers. So you can use it with the argument of the type of pre-built classifier, in this case, a language detection classifier. And then the argument we're giving it is this string, what is this language? And we're asking for the probabilities of what's going to come out, and it says the highest probability of that at 99.99% is English, and actually force it to tell me some of these obscure probabilities. Let's tell it to give me the top 3 probabilities, and there's a tiny possibility it's a language I don't know called Tagalog, or it could also be Afrikaans at an even smaller probability. So this is it's making its class prediction. If I don't ask it for these extra bits of detail, it will simply make its prediction and say, that looks like an English sentence. And there's about half a dozen of these standard built-in classifiers within the classify command, things like profanity detection, things like topic and name, gender detection, things like this are pre-built in. Mostly where this becomes useful, though, is when you want to build your own classifiers, and we'll talk about that in a minute. At a higher level, we have a purpose-built image identification function that switches between various different more advanced algorithms for identifying what's in pictures. So here I have 2 images that I'm entering into the system. I'm going to say apply that image identify function to each of those images, and we recognize a gray wolf and some key limes. Now, the neural network framework that I mentioned is a way of being able to fetch arbitrary neural networks from a repository. So we can do the same image detection task by a specific net model that we've called Inception. It's, I think, a Google trained model, and I've mislabeled these things. Let's see what Google has to say about image 1 and 2. And it's given the same answer on the first one, but the second one, it's I would guess has got that wrong when they look like limes to me, but maybe it knows better, and these are unripe lemons. Other sort of high-level commands that we have built into the language are things like image restyling. If you're doing image processing, being able to take, say, source images like the Mona Lisa, and then style reference images and say restyle the Mona Lisa as if it was done by Kandinsky, and it's taken the style of one and mapped it onto the other, or Monet version of the same thing. Another high-level set of useful machine learning things that are built into the language are to do with natural language processing. So those can be at quite structural levels. So I can take a sentence here and decompose it into what's the noun, the subject, the object, and separate sentences. Or at a much more component level, where I can take, in this case, I'm fetching the Wikipedia page on the moon, but I want to search that text for all of the things that are mentioned that are of type quantity, and I want to figure out what those quantities look like. So it's using a machine learning content recognizer to find the phrases that look like things that are quantities, like 10 meters or 100 years, and then interpret those things in the Wolfram language representation of units. So we're not going to get the word meters, it's going to turn that into a stylized M automatically. And this text cases works over everything that the Wolfram Alpha system knows about. So I could search that for cities that were mentioned in the text, or countries, or notable people, or rivers if there were any mentioned on. I doubt there's many rivers mentioned on the Wikipedia article about the moon, but all of these entity concepts in the real world, we can recognize those from text. And hopefully this is going to not take too much longer. Here we go. So here's all the quantities that were mentioned on that page together with the units that they're in. And another high-level thing that's built in is anomaly detection. And the idea of that is I can give it some data, here in this case a set of colors, and it's trying to figure out which doesn't look like it follows the pattern of the rest. And since these are all rather secondary muted pastel shades, it's decided that bright red and bright green stand out as anomalous. And this works even better if you can pre-train on data that you know to be correct. So here I'm fetching, what am I doing with this one? I'm fetching some data from the MNIST dataset to build an anomaly detector function for characters. That's because the MNIST data contains pictures of handwritten digits. And now I can apply that pre-trained detector to a set of example images and it spotted the two things that don't look like, they look like handwritten digits. One, because it clearly isn't, and the other one because it's so corrupted so that it doesn't fit the quality of the rest of the data set. And of course, these are retrainable.